We should be good to go. Call to order the Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, January 14th, 2025.
2026. Oh, yeah.
26. Thank you. And Lucas has graciously offered to do the native land acknowledgement.
I'm gonna read the land acknowledgement. COCC would like to acknowledge that the beautiful land our campuses reside on are the original homelands of the Wasco and the Warm Springs people. They ceded this land to the U.S. government in the Treaty of 1855. The new Paiute people were forcibly moved to the Warm Springs Indian Reservation starting in 1879. It's also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region to the Great Salado Falls trading grounds. Descendants of these original people are thriving members of our communities today. We acknowledge and thank the original stewards of this land.
Thank you, Lucas. Roll call.
Jim,
Present.
Laura Craft Cooper,
Here.
Joe Krenowitz,
Yes.
Aaron Mers,
Here.
Aaron Foot Morgan,
Here.
Alan Unger,
Here.
Greg Pereira,
Here.
Michael Lalonde,
Here.
Alicia Moore,
Here.
Anne Marie Hamlin,
Here.
Zach Boone, here, Laura Gomi,
Here.
Andrew Davis, here, Josh Lawson, here, Paul Taylor, here, Kyle Matthews, here, and we're good to go.
Is there any questions or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment.
We've got 4 folks, from what I understand, for public comment. We could start with, I'm not sure if there's a particular order folks want to go with, but Liz, we could start with you if you'd like. We're going to do something a little different today, just so that everybody is aware of how much time they have. I've got a timer on the screen so that folks can see, and then we'll go from there. It's 2 minutes.
All right. Hello, folks. I'm Liz Patterson. I am a community member. I have 3 degrees from COCC. I am a data specialist in the Adult Basic Skills Department. I'm also the bargaining chair for our Classified Association. I just want to say how important it is for us to finalize this contract. We are going into mediation. And this has gone a whole lot longer than any of us had anticipated. A lot of us were hoping to have a little extra money for Christmas this last year. And we didn't come to a resolution before that time. I myself did not buy Christmas presents this year. I couldn't afford it. I received gifts from friends, from family, and I couldn't reciprocate. I couldn't even plan because we've been at this for over 10 months. If I wanted to plan for Christmas, I would have thought, oh, we might have a contract by then. I might have a little extra money. Couldn't even begin saving. Do you know what that feels like? To not be able to give when you receive gifts from people that are important to you and you can't give back. It's dehumanizing, it's demoralizing. You guys aren't even offering us out of poverty wages. I came to school here and got degrees that were supposed to help me get out of poverty. I'm working for you guys and you've got me in poverty. That doesn't make sense. I need you to do better. You have the money. That's all I'll say.
Apologize for the sounds. Scott? Scott Duff?
Good evening, everyone. I'm here in my capacity as the president of CACOCC. As we head towards our first mediation session here with the college, and as you've heard tonight, we have a lot of folks who are quite invested in the outcome of that. I'm also here to stand in support of our faculty as they start their bargaining journey tomorrow. But mostly I'm here tonight to ask a very simple question. What kind of workers does this board believe that the students who attend this college deserve? When we spoke to you in November, we highlighted the struggles that classified staff routinely face. Housing insecurity, food insecurity, a lack of emergency funds, and so on. We came to you in the hopes that you would listen, that you would hear us, and that you would act. That has not happened. And that is a choice that this board can make. This board can signal that they are okay with our revolving door of employees where it becomes increasingly difficult to make this place a career, where the employees are going to have to constantly look for their next opportunity, not because they want to or because they dislike their job or their supervisor, but because they simply cannot afford to do anything else. That is a choice that the board can make, but I don't think it's a long-term good choice for the health of this college. We know that our students do better when their faculty and their staff aren't worrying about where their next meal is coming from, or whether they have a home to go back to. So I ask again, what kinds of workers are we trying to support? Because ultimately the choice is yours. And I hope you'll make the right one. Thank you, Steph.
Sarah Henson?
Hi, thanks everyone. I'm Sarah Henson. I'm the current president of the COCC Faculty Forum. And as you know, we enter into bargaining sessions tomorrow. We're looking forward to a really productive, mutually beneficial bargaining season. And I wanted to just reflect and share with you some of the pillars of our bargaining platform. So if you remember back in September when I talked to you, I talked about the fact that we want to be partners with the administration and with the college, that we have shared goals and shared values. Those being commitment to a culture of excellence, to service to our students and our community, and to facilitating a sustainable and thriving future for the college. And so our pillars for our bargaining platform are to reclaim faculty value, to reclaim faculty worth, and faculty voice. And I think that if we're able to address those things for faculty, to pay them competitive salaries, to be able to attract and retain the excellent high quality faculty that we have grown accustomed to, as Scott said, to be able to make this a place where people can build a career, that COCC isn't a place people have to sacrifice and give up in order to teach here and do the important work that we do, then I think that's a win-win for all of us. So I'm really looking forward to those conversations that are coming and to achieving some wins for everyone so that we can all thrive together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rebecca.
I'm Becky Plassman. I was hired at COCC in September of 1995. I worked in the math department as a full-time faculty member for 29 years. I have since worked at the tutoring center, and I spoke with you the last 2 months as well. While I was full-time faculty, I chaired negotiations at least 3 times. I was faculty senate chair for 3 years. I have long been concerned that this college has been devaluing faculty and making it harder and harder for the faculty to be as excellent as we once were. When I was hired here, the application pool was more than 80 people. We haven't had an application pool like that for years, for decades. Even 20 years ago, we would make offers, the math department would make offers to people and they would say, I'm sorry, we can't come here for that kind of money. It is much, much worse now. We have excellent faculty members who give it a try. who make it 1 year and then leave us because they cannot afford to live here. We have, I adore this college. By not paying staff what we're worth, we're driving this college into the ground. I hope you listen to us this year. Thank you.
I believe that's all the public comment we have.
Moving to the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Is there a motion for that?
I shall move.
Second.
Let's do roll. All in favor?
We did roll call.
Yeah. Aaron? How do you vote?
Oh, hi.
Do we do a roll call or we just? say-
No, we just say all those in favor.
Oh, I have to.
All
All those in favor. Aye.
Any opposed? Accepted. Information items, monthly budget status, Michael.
Yes, as you will see in the report, cash and investments in November were earning about 4.34%. We were just notified by the local government investment pool that those investments will now be paying 4.1%. So it's gone down a little bit, but it's still one of the best investments you can make in short-term money. The other thing is we've received the bulk of our property tax revenue in November, which is significant. And we received prior taxes because some of the lawsuits are being settled. So we were over budget compared to our budget. That's what that was. Anything else? Everything looks pretty good. Really no comments. Other than that.
Any questions?
Anything to suggest the taxes wouldn't come in at the expected amount?
Yes, so the bulk of it comes in November and the rest of it comes out in throughout the
And
year.
we expect it to be normal.
We actually, I think we're going to be a little bit higher than projected. Now, state aid is a little different story.
Of course.
Any further questions? Hearing none. New hire report, Cora.
Anyone have questions for me? Based on the packet? Trio, I'll mention, Trio is the new one, so Alicia might have comments, but other than that, moving forward. Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Hearing none. Construction management.
So Josh is here with us tonight. Basically, this is the construction manager, general contractor contract. Where we have followed all the procedures to let everybody know how our protest here is. And so now Josh is here with a resolution to approve that contract.
Welcome, Joe.
And I think he has one slide that might go for a little bit.
Yeah.
To talk about kind of the background where we're at.
All right. This resolution, action under consideration, award RFP 1615-25 for construction manager, general contractor services, CMGC, for the Redmond Campus Building 3 remodel and expansion to Sunwest Builders and authorize contract negotiation. For background, on October 15th, COCC issued an RFP to solicit proposals for a CMGC for their services for the Redmond Campus Expansion Project. The project includes a renovation and expansion of existing facilities to support academic programs, student services, and campus operations, consistent with the college's long-term facilities planning and capital improvement goals. We received 7 proposals. In response to the solicitation, we completed an evaluation of those and whittled them down to three proposals. And then we, through an interview process, settled on Sunwest Builders out of Redmond. They were the highest ranked and most responsive proposal. And if we go over this slide, as of next steps, COCC would enter into a contract for design and development of these plans with Sunwest in conjunction with Steele and Associates Architects. Sunwest would submit a GMP, a guaranteed maximum price, in which we would come again to the board for approval. And then an amendment to the contract we made and presented for a final cost for construction. The planned budget is for construction and GMP in the neighborhood of 5.6 million. We have contingency permits, consulting and fixtures, furniture and equipment in about 2.4 million for a total cost estimate of $8 million. Funding is $8 million from a grant from HEC and $4 million match from the college. Any questions so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
We had to come up with $4 million before heck matches, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And who were the final three? The final three were?
It was Bremick Construction, Kirby Nagelhout Construction, and Sunwest Builders.
Have things changed at all in terms of we've been expecting 8 million for this project for a long time, but prices keep going up.
Yeah.
We still expect 8 million, even though that's been the number for a year or two.
8 million for the cost of construction.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this project is such that it's very modular and we can build to budget more than we could on like the Matters project, where we had certain thresholds we had to meet. So for finishes and stuff like that. This is really a built out warehouse, and we're going to build infrastructure for future. So we can occupy at kind of whatever level, and anything we can get above that is just basically a bonus. So
When would construction begin?
we are going to be in design development for about 6 months. So we would probably start this summer after permits and everything to start phase 1 of the project.
Would it be possible for us to see the project budget for this project? The planned budget in total,
Sure.
as we move along?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The commission is fully record.
Yeah, we're transparent.
Be great.
And you'll notice on our cash statement that was provided to the board that there's over 4 million set aside. Because the state requires us to prove that we have 4 million match.
Mhm.
So that's why that is set aside.
Mhm.
And with interest, it's grown to 4.2 something.
That's helpful.
And Aaron, when we come back for the GMP amendment, you'll have the full budget analysis right there. Yeah.
Thanks.
Are we expanding on the buildings or is this just an internal remodel?
No, this is an additional 13,000 square feet. And that's phase 1. We're going to move welding and manufacturing to that new phase,
Okay.
get them going, and then come back around and remodel an interior portion.
Josh, can you remind me, and I apologize because I do remember asking this in the real estate committee,
Mhm.
how far along are we on the design drawings?
We're 90% of.
Okay, so we're engineer drawings.
Yeah, we've
So
done
the
it.
unknown,
As far
unknown
as we
unknown
can,
pretty
without a
far.
general contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then there's a Cindy, I don't know if Cindy's gonna talk about it, but there's a grant for the equipment that's gonna go in that part of the building. I'm sure we covered it some.
Big people on that.
Would you like to speak to that, Cindy?
Would I like to speak to the grant?
Yes.
I would love to speak to the grant. The manufacturing department was awarded a $2.187 million 4-year grant through FIPSI. So that's the funding for the improvement of post-secondary education. It is a 4-year grant, which is really great. There are 3 parts to it. The first part is to the development of 7 new short-term stackable credentials that are workforce Pell eligible and industry aligned. And we'll actually be bringing one of those tonight. We will be doing internships, so we're gonna have a coordinator who will help students move from the certificate into internships, so out into industry. We have a lot of industry support. And the third thing is sort of the fun thing, there's about $1 million in there to pay for new equipment. So we will be buying new welders and CNC machines and lathes and you name it, we laid it out. So super awesome. It was, I think there's 22 colleges and universities in the nation that received FIPSE funding. There were 9 colleges across the nation. We were one of those 9 that received this segment of it. So it is a big honor for the college to have this kind of recognition. Sean Tevlin, Amy Ward really did outstanding work. It was a huge team effort. Lots of went into it. We had 17 days to write the grant. So we didn't have a whole lot of time to do it. It happened right before Thanksgiving. And we had to put it in on December 3rd and we learned about it on New Year's Eve. So really huge.
And
Really great.
of course, the person that was left out, and that was also Cindy Lenhart.
Right,
hard work in it. And I would also point out, it was the only FIPSE grant awarded in the state of Oregon, which we did in 17 days. So I can't say enough about the team. It's great. Great.
And what was the origin of the grant again?
The origin of it, it's a federal grant, so it comes out of the Department of Education.
Okay.
And we call them FIPSE grants, but they basically build capacity in programs. And we had the components of what we needed: workforce Pell, stackable credentials, manufacturing, all of the stuff. So we got really just nailed it. It was a little fun.
Would you like to speak to the CEO's comments today too? That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, we had industry partners. Thank you for that. We had industry partners who provided support for us in letters. SpaceX being one of the big ones. Nosler, they're a facility or a automation ammunition and gun manufacturer. They're building an 80,000 square foot facility in Redmond. And Mike Lake, who is their CEO, there'll be a press release that comes out shortly that really talked about the value of having highly qualified workers available to them. So we had a lot of support from Steve Curley at Ready and John Stark with EdCode. So we had a lot of industry partners in it. And it is cool because the manufacturing program doesn't have to share this with any other college. It was awesome. A lot of them did, so yeah, really good.
Sure.
I stole your thunder, Greg.
No, it's good. Thank you. I was gonna be one of my updates, but you did a better job.
Joe?
Do you anticipate, what do you anticipate in regards to additional staffing 2 or 3 years out?
Yeah, so we will be able to start right now hiring a professor for manufacturing to help us with release time and building these stackable credentials, because they're gonna take a while to build. We are also hiring a manufacturing workforce development coordinator. So this is someone who's going to be building out our internships with industry partners and also helping students get those jobs. And so those 2 jobs will start as soon as we can get them hired, because we have grant funding to do that. Our goal, as with any grant, is to build the capacity to continue those in some format at the end of those 4 years. So we'll be working to do that. We have a goal of 250 students. So we have some pretty lofty goals in terms of graduating students with these certificates, and that person will be helping us.
250 for a year or
Yeah.
4 years?
That's really great news in days where we don't get a lot of great news.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's great.
You ready for a motion? Yeah.
Be it resolved that the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors hereby authorizes the college president or designee to negotiate and execute a contract for construction manager / general contractor services for COCC Redmond Campus Remodel and Expansion Project pursuant to RFP number 1615-25 with SunWest Builders, subject to successful contract negotiations and compliance with applicable procurement regulations.
Second.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none.
Thank you, Board.
Thanks, Josh.
Great work.
Yes.
Move on to item number 2, Mike.
In your packet tonight is the Fourth Amendment to a ground lease for neighborly development.
Hey, Michael, sorry, I want to interrupt and just say I gotta walk out of the room because I have a potential conflict since this involves our joint venture with Whiskey.
Yes.
So if someone will get me, we'll be back. That's not royally.
So this is the Fourth Amendment to the ground lease with neighborly development. We signed the lease in September 23rd, 2022, and there's been 3 amendments. And this is the 4th. This is a property located on the southeast corner of Mount Washington and Shetland Park Road, next to the LDS Church. This is for basically apartments. Neighborly development has gone to the city to get a tax exemption because they plan to put low-income housing in that development as well. I think it's 12 units total for low-income housing. And again, the reason they would like to extend the due diligence period, and that's what the amendment's for, is because the market is kind of soft right now. They want to spend some more time looking at the market, evaluating the property, how they would design it, and then they would commit by February of next year to it. We believe that still the lease is very favorable for the college. It increases rents based on the value of the property. That's hard to do in this environment. So Whiskey and I recommend this amendment to the ground. And there's a resolution to pass it. So we've done this for at least 3 times. Yeah.
It was supported by the real estate committee, so I'm correct.
So pretty heavy.
Tell us why. Tell us more about your conversation.
It was some good conversation, heavy conversations in regards to the market. Where rents are, you could look at Jackalope or Jack Pine apartments, they're having challenges. They're brand new sitting there and they can't even get them rented, let alone giving them 2 or 3 months free rent and whatever else. They give them, extra vouchers for this and that. We all know that mortgage rates are expensive. Money is expensive. The contractor is very cautious, but at the same time, with Whiskey's advisory consultation to the college, they have done us a great job. They're very deep in what they go through in regards to truly when they do it, it was underneath their company name or their company consultation. I have to lean on those folks because I'm not in the real estate business, I'm not in the rental business, and I feel comfortable with their recommendation. It's certainly uncomfortable when you go through this the 4th time we've done this. At the same time, there's probably other real estate committee members can address this as well. There isn't anyone else interested at this point in time to even start fresh. You probably swam a third of the way across the ocean. I know there's land on the other side. We just got to get to halfway through, and then February will be. I think we'll be halfway there and make it run with it.
Yeah, the stability of the relationship we currently have with those developers, as opposed to if we backed out, we have to go out and solicit other developers to come in. And how far would that put us backwards? And to get someone else come in and draft plans, even if anybody would touch it. And try to re-advertise and re-engage, we could be 2 years out.
I remember that this is the exact conversation we had a year ago, though.
Yeah.
And if we had started a year ago, we might be in a different position now.
No.
If we wanted to, I'm not sure we'd want to. I think we got a good relationship with these people and they're looking at more development in the future and So this seems to me like it's a wise decision to make.
Yeah, it's so much being market driven right now, Aaron. And we know that this isn't something that they're bringing up. It's something we can read every day in the bulletin or read anywhere else. It's so market driven right now where they don't want to say that there's a glut of apartments because that brings down the value and monthly balance, right? What people have to pay. And it's just a tough time right at this, we're at this teetering peak right now
Yeah.
for development.
Do we think that we are still committed to these apartments on this land being market rate? Or would it be a time for us to open a conversation about what the best use of this land would be for our students, for members of our community?
Well, it sounds like it would be a blended, assuming it got approved, market rate and low income.
Yes.
Can you tell
Mixed.
us about that tax question with the city of Bend?
So the city of Bend can choose for undeveloped land to not charge property taxes on a portion of the property. And the benefit to the community is that something will be developed at that location and they will start receiving some tax income, but not for the entire thing. So they think it's favorable. Look, we're gonna have something developed that wouldn't have been developed. We will get some property tax income, just not if it was developed for market rate apartments completely. And so there's a demand for low income housing in town and the city council realizes that. So the break gives them the opportunity
Yeah.
to have a different tax.
I mean, there is a demand for lower income
Yes.
housing in this community. These folks wanna, their hope is to have pretty high rate of, units,
So
market rate,
Market.
which are across the community definitely soft right now. I am opening the question to this board of whether or not this is still the best use of this property.
one of the questions that we never got thoroughly answered was, if we transfer that property to another developer, does the tax deferral stay with it for the low income housing? We were never able, correct me if I'm right here, we were never able to get an exact solid if that was gonna happen. So that was a concern
Someone could
also.
apply again.
Peter said that it would not. It would
Yeah.
not treat.
They would have to just apply again for it.
And that's my comment, is that they would have to start over. My familiar with planning commissions. Twice, as a city councilor mayor, they would have to reapply where that new development may come in. And once again, there's associations and longevity or long-term relationships the city has with this current company. Of course, COCC as well as Wispy. I can hear your concerns, Aaron. I think if we step aside, say, let's start over. You have a lot of pie in the sky, you think 2 or 3 years, and I think it'd be probably kicked to the side by everybody.
Have we explored working with a lower income builder?
I don't know if we've done that, but when we first looked at developing this property, our goal was to have property that or housing that we could entertain to students, faculty, workers, police and school teachers. When they started developing the property, that was a real hard thing to do. And, it's just the cost of things, you just can't get there.
Things have changed a lot in the affordable housing space in Oregon, including the available resources for building these projects, and I'm gonna, just reiterate, I am putting on the table that I am not comfortable with continuing to offer extensions of ground leases to this for-profit, market rate organization, and that we should absolutely entertain the concept of whether this is property that should be used for a higher purpose in our community.
Well, maybe that's a conversation we start 6 months from now. And see where they're at.
Well, this is a
Or
year-long
conversation we
extension.
start now, so if they come back and ask again, then we can make a decision.
Well, I think we said last year that we were not willing to do this again, because this was a concern that I had last year.
Michael, I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's right.
A couple of points. I have talked to a number of low income housing developers.
Yes.
probably 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But the vision of this property as well as the property across both streets, actually. The vision of the board was that it would be for the income
For this.
of the college. So there are other locations on the college property where low income housing might make more sense. I just don't know if it's there. Because that's a highly visible, highly trafficked area. And it probably could provide income to the college, which can be significant.
It could be a non-housing development.
Yeah, it could be anything. It could be anybody that's interested across the street in the campus village. We could introduce them to that property across the street and say, this is another option. So that's an idea.
Well, I'm gonna vote no on this one tonight, just so you all know, because I don't think we have looked into the alternatives. To a degree that
No,
I'm comfortable with.
It's fair. It's fair what you're saying. I
Yeah,
understand
this
that.
is a long time to sit on property to wait for our partner to move forward. Well, we have a huge housing need in this community.
Ready for motion?
Yes.
Can I ask,
What?
do we know when they expect to hear about the low income units? Or is it simply just waiting on the city? Was there a timeline? Like, does it have to be a full year?
They already have the authorization.
That's been approved.
They've already been approved.
So what they wanna do is look at,
Oh,
where the market is, when they can build, if they have any, impediments in regards to where the market was. Can they make this all pencil? Between the fees and everything else that goes on.
do they need a full year to do that?
Well, it takes us 6 months to get an engineering for building and Redmond.
A full year to do what?
Do they need a full year extension?
Well, to do less than that, I mean, they're operating in a business world where they're trying to look forward and have a stable working environment. They do it for less than a year. I don't know how, great, I'm not in that kind of business. I do other businesses. But I think less
Wasn't
than a
that
year.
asked?
Yeah,
I think they're looking for market conditions to change, and
Yeah.
that's not gonna be fast.
So we might just be here again next year. I guess this is just the
Could be.
point.
It's exactly what.
Yeah.
happened in the district, right? And
any further discussion? Very good.
Be it resolved that the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors approves the Fourth Amendment to the ground lease agreement between Central Oregon Community College and Neighborly Development LLC, extending the due diligence period until February 15, 2027.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
All right.
I,
Opposed?
opposed.
And I certainly appreciate your comments, and we could certainly, sit down with Wispy 6 months from now and say, "Look, we need to address this, we need to look at it, and we need some answers."
It's time to move ahead.
And they can sit down with the company and say, here's where we are with the COCC, we have budget challenges as well. It has nothing to do with the market of the real estate business, it has to do with the market in general. The economy in general, so they need to be aware that we have the same challenges in a different boat.
Yeah, everything you say is valid. It truly is.
I know this. Thank you, Jen, for validating my knowledge.
Jan, do you want me to grab more?
Yeah, please.
Hi, Megan. Before you tonight.
Well, we'll bring more. Eric Morgan.
I was just, I've been watching too many.
Oh.
Trying not to be chopped over there. Work minutes.
Each year, we're required to come in front of the board according to general business procedure B-2-6.1 to show you the annual increase in the mileage rate as well as meal per diem rate. This information we get from the IRS and the U.S. General Services Administration. So we follow their lead exactly, and we recommend that, again, we follow their lead and change our per diem and mileage rate according to their guidance.
This is almost a rubber stamp, in my opinion. The only thing over that, then you have to justify it. And I'm too sure I could justify the low rates on those relatively when I travel. I've got to find a dinner anywhere, when you're in LA,
Yeah.
New York. Most recent ACT conference, I'm sure, whoever went to that experienced that. So, but I would move it to be it resolved that the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors hereby approve the proposed mileage, the meal per diem rates presented sexually.
Second.
Aaron, second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none.
Hi.
Me again.
So we have two vacancies in the budget committee. And the vacancies are for zone 1 and zone 2. We filled zone 1 last year, but that individual actually came to work for the college. So because there was a conflict, she resigned, so we had to look for a replacement. The other one resigned just recently. She had other things on her plate. So Joe and I interviewed two potential candidates, and I put a bio and a resume in your packet of both candidates. We interviewed them. We thought they were good candidates. So we are recommending to the board that you approve of the two new candidates for zone 1 and zone 2. And their names are Bill Robinson and Brian Bergman.
Can you remind me who, Michael, cause I'm zone 2 and I don't remember hearing that the person from zone 2 left. Who? Rebecca? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And we thanked her the other day at the audit, audit committee meeting, and she's done a great job, but she has some other things on her phone.
Any discussion?
Do you have any comments about the interview?
Michael, what does Brian do now?
He's doing consulting on his own.
Do you know him, Laura?
I know him, yeah. I've worked with him on and off for years and years and known a little bit socially, and his wife actually helped put on a couple of the meals of the year. She's an event planner.
Yeah.
Right on.
Really good guy and
sounds
really
good.
sharp.
Yeah.
And was the other person?
His name is Brian, and the other person, William Robathan. He has just moved to Madras. He has been living here off and on for a number of
Oh,
years.
so Brian would be, but he doesn't live in zone 2. Brian doesn't, he doesn't Bend.
No, Brian does, just outside, barely outside of zone 2. I looked at it.
They're in the northeast, just north of Pine Nursery.
Okay. So this is the adjacent?
It's one and two. So they go.
No, I mean where he lives is immediately adjacent to the zone, because if you're not from the zone, you have to be from the adjacent zone.
I looked at his address, it is in zone 2.
Oh, it is in zone 2?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I be it resolved that the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors appoints William Robathan for zone 1 and Brian Bergler for zone 2 to the Central Oregon Community College Budget Committee to finish the current open terms ending June 30th of 2026.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Alicia?
Alicia, you're right.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm sorry, I didn't say it right.
It's not Michael?
Board of Regents, I know.
Get a complimentary break.
Honestly, I took Michael Keegan. Sorry. And I am here for questions.
So you've got before you a resolution for our room and board rates for the next academic year. Standard approach we've taken in years past where we've confirmed to the degree possible, other Oregon community colleges and universities. To the degree possible, meaning there's never an apples to apples comparison for room design and meal plan combos and that kind of thing. We didn't have significant increases in the last couple of years, but in order to stay on top of increasing operational costs, we continue to build up the building reserve for the eventual placement of roofs or internal parts. Very technical word there. We did recommend increase in the senior board packet. So happy to answer any questions.
Philosophically, with tuition, we try to kind of keep it steady year over year. Why don't we do that? I mean, the small differences, but why don't we do that here?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have tried to maintain rates that keep the burden on students as much as possible. So some years when we haven't seen a huge CPI increase, usually so that there sometimes come periods of time where we know to keep up with that inflation that we want to come back rather than just a year after year steady. So that there's times where we just backed up with that and we didn't really competitive rates for students. We'd rather than nothing with us.
Yeah.
Rather than.
And some of the up and downs really because the food away from index that we use for recommending board rates is volatile. It goes up, goes down. It's not really a steady predictable number as we've been able to do with tuition which has.
Okay. What do you think about next year? I'm just looking for some steady like Aaron is.
Yeah.
You know, up and down is to me hard. I'd rather go even raise it a little bit each year.
You mean, what do we think about rates for next year? If I was that good of a predictor of what CPI might do, Alan, I probably could make up some. But that's really difficult for us to look into the future and forecast. We work with our food service provider. We try to look at the same things for housing. But that metric is a complicated one to predict. I would hope that it would not be substantively different than we have this year, but I think the market has become increasingly difficult to predict.
I think the other thing we also want to do especially in the board rates and the food service reserve account, the last year the dish rack thing that spins around.
Oh, yeah. The dish rack.
And that was $120,000 repair that had to be done, right? So we want to maintain reserves to a certain degree because, that building is now where we 14-ish years old. And if things like the walk-in cooler go out, that's another $5,000 piece of equipment. If a commercial oven or stove goes out, that's a $30,000. So that's on the food service side of things. And then on the housing side of things, I mean, again, the building's starting, it's a high use building with 300 plus or minus 18-year-olds. We need to make sure that we have resources for when things go.
When they don't go.
First job, the internal guts of the building go sideways.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I was looking for is kind of like, well, you're building a reserve, but so when you do that, you kind of go, well, how big a reserve do we need? And so how much do we need to collect for that? And so.
Yeah, so our goal
Sounds
was
like it's gonna be
to
the
cover
same.
our debt service and about 4 to 5% reserve is the target that we were told is the good reserve to aim for. And that's, this is keeping us in that.
Sorry, Alan, I think I misunderstood what you were asking.
No, that's okay. I can't predict it either.
That's all right.
Any other questions?
Right. Any other questions?
No.
Thank you. Is there a vote?
Be it resolved that Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors hereby approve the proposed 2027 meal plan, room and summer conference rates as shown in section 8.
Any further questions?
Second.
Any further questions? All in favor?
You need to vote.
All right.
Thank you. And Marie.
Shall I just? Good evening. We have several academic program changes to bring to you tonight.
there are 5 listed in your packet. I'm actually going to set aside the final one, notification of renaming of exploratory degrees. Like to get that in front of a few more faculty groups, and then I'll bring that back to you at a future meeting. But let's proceed with welding technology career pathway certificate of completion. This is a new degree, something that was requested by our advisory board to have a shorter stackable credential that students can take and immediately go out and get a job with. Our other degree, which is the next page of your packet, was longer, had some classes that were no longer relevant in the industry, and so we've created this shorter certificate to move forward, to help students move forward with employment. And they can always come in and get further stackable credentials. Cindy mentioned earlier the project of creating several of those, so the students can move forward in those forms. So this first, do you want me to do all 4 of these and then have you vote, or do you want to do one at a time?
I'm fine with it.
I do.
Okay, all right. So the second page indicates that we are suspending the existing degree, which is one that's no longer relevant. And that will remain behind the scenes on the book. Suspension simply means it's not available, it's not visible in the catalog. Students who are in the program can finish it out. We will allow them to complete those, facilitate their completion of those degrees. The second is a notification of a new major transfer map. As you know, this is a statewide effort to create sets of courses that will guarantee to transfer to our 4-year institutions. This one is for English. We approved one a couple of years ago for English. There are some minor changes to this. They have changed the name. It used to be English literature. Now they're just calling it English, which broadens out the scope. They also used to have some very specific requirements in terms of types of courses. Typically, that's English and American literature courses. And they've changed the MTM to, again, broaden out and allow more flexibility so students can choose any number of courses. They don't have to fall into those. This is something on which you do not have to vote, because you do need to know that it's happening. And so your acknowledgement is enough, but the state has already approved these degrees. And so coming to you is a formality of letting you know that we are also getting this.
So we're already aligned with
Yeah.
Right.
So in concert with that, then we need to suspend the existing major transfer map, and that's the work.
I asked one question about
Yes.
that. So, these are transfer degrees, so we're transferring to a university. It was a hard fought battle, it seems like, to get them to agree to anything with us to move forward and have common numbering and common everything, and that they would accept them. Is this a good path for our students? I mean, when they finally come up with something, our students will be successful moving forward with this new program.
They will. I especially appreciate the flexibility in it. The nature, I happen to know, I have an inside track on this degree. The nature of English has changed over time, and we used to be very structured in terms of you have to know English canon, you have to know the American canon. And really our focus in English now is being excellent critical readers, close readers, understanders of text and interpreters of text. And the discipline has changed so that we can do that in any number of types of literature. It does not have to be the canonical works that many studied in years past. So I do think it's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just gonna note an error
Oh, thank you.
on 8F4B. It says in options that we need to approve or decline, but to Anne Marie's point, we don't. We just have to acknowledge. So.
Thank you, Erin.
So. All at once, a motion. Be it resolved that the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors approves the suspension of the welding technician career pathway and the English literature associate of arts transfer. And approves the new career pathway certificate of completion in welding and English associate of arts transfer.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we move on to number 9, Board of Directors Operations. There's
Changes to the GP4. So you guys should have a red line. You may recall that last month, the Policy Review Committee brought you GP4, which is the role of the chairperson and the vice chair. And we had had a little bit of discussion about whether it had been unclear to us, the meeting in November, whether the committee, when we met, had fully incorporated the discussion that had occurred in November when we brought this in December, which was supposed to be the second read. So the committee went back and we discussed it a little bit further, and we concluded that we needed one more change to this. And so that is what you have included here, although I see the cumulative one, but not the
You got the one that I distributed this evening?
yes, but it's the cumulative one. It's not the.
Oh, yeah, yeah, so we have the ones we were discussed today, and then if you keep turning, it'll have this cumulative. It should.
Sorry.
In fact,
Well, I can tell you where the change is.
Yeah.
I had given you 2 red lines because one is the whole cumulative, if you can see it, and then the
Yeah,
other one
and they're
was.
both,
Yeah, they're both in.
yeah,
Oh, I only had one.
the start of, you should, at the start of the packet. Turn. Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, I thought that was a clean one. My bad, sorry. Thank you, Kyle. It was the drafter's error. That would be me. So please go to page 2 and you'll see we took out seek to, so it'll simply say the chair will provide timely communication. And then at the end, we added that, goal of avoiding surprises and providing all board members with equal access to information and input in decision making. And this was really just an attempt to prevent any chair from trying to like talk to one person on the board or whatever. No, bring it to a meeting, let's all talk. Okay, so along those lines, I wanted to bring up one other thing, but I don't, okay, let me back up. Paul sent me a message, but you guys know I missed the last policy review committee. I mean, I made the one today, but I missed the one in December. And so I had missed Paul's message to me. When we discussed this policy in November and in December in the policy review committee, I had gotten a little bit concerned about making sure that in an effort to have the chair and vice chair communicate with the whole board, that we be very careful and mindful that we don't want to and we cannot violate Oregon's public meetings laws. And that means we can't engage in serial communications. We can't try to circumvent the need for a meeting by having conversations behind, and or having conversations with a third party who then goes and talks to all the board members. You all know this, we've had these conversations before. We all have to get our public meeting training, but I asked Paul if we should put something in our policy about that. And so Paul has provided some language to us that I think is really good, but I think it would be worth sending it to the policy committee to consider. So what I'm going to suggest is we go ahead and adopt this policy, but that we refer this additional language to the policy or to the policy committee, and we can bring it back just as an amendment. We do that all the time, but this is a substantially overhauled policy, and it's good as it is. We're just going to then work with the language Paul gave us to add an addition at a future meeting.
Good for me.
I'm fine with it.
So you'll see that new language. It'll be all by itself, so it won't be with all of this other red line and that confuses.
You do a full motion, or everybody says yes?
Since it's a second read.
Reading, do full motion.
Yeah.
Well, can I move to approve GP4 as amended?
Second.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank
It does
you.
explain.
Thank you, Kyle, for
Thank you,
getting
Paul.
that. And Paul, thank you for sending me the language. I'll forward it on to everybody. Okay, so then the next one is BEP 7, and just so that you, I should back up a little bit, say these 2 policies are the last, besides I think we have one more, that came out of our retreats that we had with Mary Spildy. And you may recall that she had given us some suggestions of policy updates we could do to accommodate the issues that we had all raised in our various retreats, and also sort of best practices in bringing down a new president of the board and having had a significant turnover in the board. So that was why the policies that we have taken up first to review and bring proposals to the board to update have all been the ones that came out of those retreats. Now, after we finish these tonight, and then we have one more that we're going to be reviewing at the next meeting, at the next policy committee meeting, then we're going to start the systematic review of all of the policies. We're going to put them on a 3-year rotation, and we'll just look at them. And some of them we may look at and say, we don't think they need to be updated. I doubt that's going to happen. But some will probably do more updating than others. But it's good hygiene, if you will, for the board to make sure that the policies reflect what we do and what we intend to do, and keep us kind of honest. So that brings us to BEP 7, and this has to do with how we communicate between the board and the president. And the policy committee asked Greg and Erica volunteered to be the one board member to do some drafting. And so what they did was they had looked at the policy that we had in our the original one that had been drafted in 93 and then revised in 2015. And they made some revisions, and now we have the latest revision. And I think this is going to be, is this read 1?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I think that what we discovered is that the policy is not too bad. I mean, it's
But this
pretty
isn't
good.
do the full red
I
line.
distribute, that was one I received today. Correct, this is not the full red line.
This
There
isn't.
That's what I was
quite
asking
a few
about.
changes made.
Yeah, I did not have that
Oh,
earlier.
this is the changes that were made today. It's not the original.
that's
change.
right.
But, mhm.
Do
We don't have a-
we, do you
able
need
to
to
verify?
be, and do you wanna print those? And people can look at it, or do we take?
It's not a long policy. I
No.
feel like it kind of stands on its own.
Yeah, you do the first reading, and then if we have changes, we can get that marked up
Yeah.
first one and we'll look at it and see what first changes.
I will say the draft that Greg and Erica provided, and then that the committee went through today, and we've just had a couple of minor revisions, was, I think, really good and reflective of the discussions that we've had at our retreats. You know, the big things were, we wanted to make sure that no surprises, that's the number one rule, right? And we want to have information regularly, and we want to have the whole board regularly informed of things that are important. And then, you know, these other ones are things that we've talked about, you know, give us perspectives, right? We want to know what folks in what the stakeholders, the relevant information for various sorry, I know we're supposed to use a different word, from various interested parties, right? And those whose views would be relevant to what we're doing. And we want data. We've said that all along, that we want to make our decisions with all the data, or at least as good data as we can get. And so I think those were most of the things that we've discussed in our various conversations with Greg and with Mary about how we want to set sort of our ground rules for communication between the board. This does not talk about communication among board members. This is communication between the board and the president.
So on first reading, is there something you do to make it your first reading, or you just?
We just
identify
say,
it as first reading?
do everyone okay, and consensus that we're okay with this being the first reading?
And does anyone have any edits they wanna offer?
Yeah, comments or stuff. Yeah.
Comments?
Very good.
And then maybe we circulate the full red line before the second reading, just so everyone does it, but, I mean, you can see. This is the clean version, but so you have a clear before and after.
Yeah, so I would say, thank you, Greg and Erica, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, first reading, we don't have to have anything else.
We make a motion.
We don't need a motion. We'll make a motion for the second read. But if anybody has comments, or let either Erica or Aaron or me, not either, any of us know. Because we'll take it up in our next meeting, which we already have scheduled.
Kyle, thanks for doing the
Thanks.
on a short notice. Thank you.
To the policy committee for
Yeah.
this thorough work over the last few years. It's a lot of redlining for Laura, I think, a lot of input for you. And I'm feeling really confident that our policies are.
We're getting in good shape, but I will say we have a really good committee. It's really thoughtful and we don't always agree initially, but we always, it's funny, we'll be like, well, I don't think that, but then we'll talk through why, and then we're like, oh, okay, I see that. Well, what if we do this? It's actually been a really good process, I think. And I did like, we got stuck on some verbiage today on on the next policy we're doing and goes, well, much as I love crowdsourcing the drafting, maybe we ought to come back to this at the next meeting. I was like, yeah, so that's knowing when you're getting too much into the detail, but yeah, I thank you for that, because I think we do have a good committee.
Any further discussion? Okay, looking forward to the red line coming out in our next reading. So communication updates. Committee updates.
So start off with the audit and finance. We had a meeting Monday. Tuesday, thanks. Which we were presented the audit.
Me too, but I missed it.
What?
We both missed.
I missed
committee
it.
meeting. I had a personal thing.
I don't know how.
Well, there's just three of us. Joe,
and finance.
you,
I-
and me are on audit and
Yeah.
finance.
Okay, I'm not on my.
You were.
I was, I'm not
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
I think I got the email.
Oh.
Okay, all right.
Oh, you're on the list still, okay.
Plus,
We had a
Sliding window.
audit and finance committee meeting yesterday, and we went over the presentation of the budget with Heather and the CPAs, and had no findings, which is good. And they're gonna be coming to the board at the next meeting and present that, and then we will accept it. And we can ask questions about the audit then, and between now and then, Kyle's gonna send you hard copies to read through, because it's 138 pages. And a lot of figures, but in my mind, it's the best way to look at the college, because you just get to see where all the money goes. You get to
Show me
see
the
how much
budget.
we spend on
Show me
it.
the budget and I'll tell you what your priorities are.
Yeah.
And it's currently available on our website if you're anxious and just want to look at it now, so. But don't print it unless you really want to print all those pages.
More to say to that, Michael?
No, it was clean opinion again, which is great. There was one issue that we noticed is that there was a lease agreement that had been on our books for a number of years, and I researched it for as long as I've been here. We found that it was canceled in 2015. So we made an adjustment for that purpose. That was a mistake on kind of our process. But other than that, it was a good on.
Pulse review.
I gave you, we're starting the 3-year. Thank you.
Sure. Joe, real estate?
We covered a little bit of our discussion tonight, what we've voted on. Very good on what we're here. Hopefully like when agenda from the first one, sure.
You want the agenda?
Yeah.
Send that over to Joe. Did I set the right? That's not the right one.
I can.
I know, but it's the audit, isn't it? The audit and finance one. I just
Yeah.
jumped too fast.
Would you like me to try to?
I apologize for this.
Yeah.
do a very quick advocacy committee update, like a little. Today. So over the last few months, we've been talking about a letter and a petition that we would put out to the Central Oregon Community College community to urge engagement in advocacy around not diminishing funds for community colleges as the state faces budget issues. And that letter was released today. Lucas has led this, and there is an opportunity for members of the staff, students, us, to sign this petition, urging prioritization of community college funding. And as time rolls on here towards the session, there may be more social media or more information coming out around it, but thank you, Lucas, for keeping that moving, and hopefully we'll see if we can get some traction around some engagement and elevating this issue amongst the community here to understand the challenges we're about to face. I'm going into this short session.
You sending that letter to?
The letter is available. I think we,
It's online, yeah, there will be a
Yeah.
lot more communication around it for raising awareness. For sure.
Yeah.
Informal, this is extra, these press release, will be posted on social and. I can share that with the whole village as well.
encourage everybody to sign it if you feel good about it.
In 2 seconds. Very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done.
It's very fast.
Yeah.
Aaron, how's the process going of trying to get the legislators on campus to visit us?
It went well. We had a lot. I think we've met with everyone that was our intended.
Did Vicky come on campus?
Vicky Bruce Iverson? I don't think so. No. So
Yeah,
maybe-
I could.
we
Call.
had a-
Yeah.
Okay, we may have 1 or 2 left then. We may actually have someone from zone 7 that didn't connect with us as well. So I think those may be our remaining.
Did we get Mike McLean on?
I was actually looking at the spreadsheet today with all the colleges they're sharing. I noticed he's been going to Treasure Valley because I think he's probably closer to there.
He's from Crook County.
Yeah, but he probably just doesn't remember that we're also in his.
He does. I've talked to him about it.
Yeah.
I can follow up with him as well. Yeah.
Maybe grab even just a Zoom call before the session. I know they're very busy. But with both Vicky and Mike, that would be great. And if they're watching right now.
Call us. Call us.
Call me.
We did have good conversations with Emerson Levy and Jason Rodman, Jason Crop, who helped us understand the reality of the budget circumstances that we're moving into, and that this is just the tip of the iceberg, likely. The cuts that we're anticipating this year.
It's grim.
It's quite grim.
But I will
Not
say,
very
for me,
popular.
meeting these individuals for the first time, we have great elected officials. They're very dialed in, wonderful questions about the college. It was really, really good. Really good group.
Okay, I can start here. We met with Westby, of course, which is a consultant and consultant for any of our real estate transactions as well as real estate improvements, additions, proposals. We went over the Neighborly Ventures project, which is the 186 unit campus village apartments. It's going as planned. They're looking at expanding some of it into another proposal to look at expanding the size for village core commercial development just northeast of the Neighborly Venture project. With maps will be really good on the screen, but right now the occupancy rate is 80%. There's 148 units available, 80% of them in leased. They've had to do some heavy discounting promotions, but we're a lot better off than our other discussion we had previously in the meeting. They have 23 leases on track. We anticipate securing 3 of them this month. Who's being this developer? They're aggressive, and they bend with the market rules. They are definitely flexible, as well as they're not caught up in because that's how we always do it. So it was a comfortable conversation. We feel pretty good as a real estate group. The outcrop, they have a builder's interest, three key builders for negotiation with Wispy on behalf of the COCC. And we hope to have that plat recorded by end of this month or first part of February. They've had some issues with the asphalt, the paving. It's all little details, you all have seen the new developments, and all of a sudden there's a big pool of water, and you think, why didn't that get solved before that late? I mean, the thing was, they're ahead of schedule. We discussed,
Please be question, the outcrop that's not the property at the top of over here. Different,
To the southwest corner of Mount Washington and Southern Park, so.
okay, southwest, yeah.
Southwest.
I'll
It's kind of a
go
mini
around that.
subdivision they're putting in.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right across the street from the property.
Yeah.
so they were just giving us updates, everything has to do with the market. And money, cost of money, which is typical in real estate business, from what my experience of being on the real estate committee for 10 years ago. But it's really tight right now, with regards to what can be done. It's people who have the wherewithal are dealing with things happening. And sometimes they'll get themselves caught up too. I think I got everything covered.
Do you want to talk about performing arts?
Yes, before the website, yes. That is right off of Campus Way here, right on the right side before you get to the top to turn left into Boyle Center. There's all kinds of wishbone of parking, and it gives a great outline of what they anticipate the building would look like, as well as the challenges for the landscape and topography. And it's gonna be a great view if this thing flies, and they anticipate that probably a year out before they get same commitment to it. It'll be a great partnership to have them own the building, or they'll own the building, we lease the property. And we'll have, agreements for the college to utilize, as well as the community utilization, shared parking, and,
They would operate it, they would pay the operational expenses.
It's
all
not
that kind
They
of
would
stuff.
build it.
They would build it.
Build it operate.
And we are one of several sites still being
If
looked
they're
at.
considered, yeah. What do they anticipate the cost of the facility?
About $100 million.
100 million. And one of the questions I'm curious if you guys could ask them is, do we have the local cultural organizations and groups and activities to sustain? They're working consultants and they think they do.
Yeah.
They think they can fund it, that think they can support it. And
They
do
can
they
find
give share their latest report with you guys? Is there a latest feasibility study that we could look at? It's still, I mean. I think they're on their fourth feasibility study. I'm just curious, I haven't seen the last one. I haven't seen either.
Yeah, they shared one of them with me. I have to go back and see where it's at in the process.
They were pretty clear that this is very beginning stages with us, they just wanted to know, should we bother continuing to think about this as a location? It's very, and we didn't make any commitments either, just.
I think what we have said is that, it's very preliminary, but also the college would not be willing to give any land. It would be essentially a land lease at $1 or something like that, so that if it proves to not be viable, the building and the land reverts back to the college, so that we don't take on risk with that.
Yeah.
It's also in a site that there's no development plans for, so, and the other thing we shared is if this is a path we want to go down, it would not be you can take 100 to build it. There would be a definite timeline. If you can pull it off, great. If not, we build it.
We're one of 3 locations.
We're one of 3 locations, us, OSU Cascades, and another site north of town. The real potential benefit for the college and why I was interested in it is because of Pinckney, actually. The Pinckney space It's in a rough spot, but it also has that trust construction, which we might not be able to ensure. We're still trying to find out. And so to put $1 million into Pinckney, if that building's not going to be viable in 5 years, would be really difficult. So if we can find a partner willing to build a large facility, we would have guaranteed use of it. So Michael Guessme has been part of the conversation. We anticipate about 60 days a year that the college would need it reserved for our purposes. It would also allow us to do, we could do commencements indoors if we chose. We'd have to do multiple, it wouldn't be one. We could do our college-wide convocation quite a bit. So if we had access to that at no cost to us for space we're not going to use, it's very appealing, but also it might never happen. That's the
Right, it
reality.
might never.
So if there's no liability on our end, I think what I heard from the real estate committee is we were certainly willing to have the conversations, but.
And we thought it would be, you know, I mean, in an ideal world, if this could happen, it's another way to bring people onto the campus.
Yes.
You know, to be able to see this,
Mhm.
you know, the beautiful treasure that the community has here.
Karen, to your question too, their plan is to raise 100% of the funds before they break ground, which is a little bit of a different model, so they shared that with the committee as well.
And is that at all through like a community bond?
Or they're not
they're
eligible
just-
for that,
they're not.
traditional C3
They
campaign.
wouldn't be, whatever it's district proposed or anything like that, nothing.
Reference some sort of
I-
state or federal funding, but I think it's separate
Okay.
grants. I don't think it's through those means. And one of the concerns we had that I certainly brought to Zach was how do we make sure this is not competitive with COCC?
That was my,
That's a legitimate concern, and Zach, you should probably, you know,
Yeah, I mean, there are a
Yeah.
couple different, you know, Aaron, there are campaigns that go on all the time, Heart of Oregon, St. Charles,
that's right.
the museum concurrent with the Matters campaign, so I don't see those as competition. Our mission, our work is pretty unique.
Yeah,
But they were pretty clear about their design. Yes, this has been resurfaced after many years. This is a decades-long effort from community members to build something like this in Deschutes County. So yeah, you're right that they've looked at it before. My candid response, I participated in the feasibility study interview about 2 years ago, that they've taken the time to do this a little bit differently and gotten a lot of buy-in, and are moving slowly and cautiously. And again, the notion that they can break ground until they have raised all the money is a bit of I think a shift. And so I don't see it as direct competition in fundraising for what we do. I see if this were to happen, the benefits for the community and the campus and our students would outweigh any of this.
it would be amazing. Mhm.
if.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a lift.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
we
there
have,
there are a couple multi-$100 million campaigns in the community. I'll save those names for another meeting. We'll see how successful they are.
but there's the running theme, which I think is important, and Michael's working on a similar project that we're trying to at least get some interest in, is that we recognize we have aging buildings. We recognize we don't have the funds to pay for said buildings, at least not as quickly as we would ever want. So if we can get creative with partnerships and find ways to do it, it could be a tremendous win for the college. Or it doesn't work out, but as long as we're not putting any money, resources, or a large amount of effort in, we think it's at least worth pursuing.
Any further questions? Daniel? So we move on to board members' activities.
Can start. On Monday, January 12th, I attended a budget meeting with Greg and Michael, and today, Wednesday, January 14th, I attended the policy committee meeting.
Monday, I had a half a real estate committee meeting, and Tuesday I had a audit and finance.
On the 19th of December, I had a call with Greg. On the 31st of December, I had a call with Michael. On the 6th of January, I had a call with Michael and Greg. On the 7th, I had a real estate committee meeting, and on the 14th, I had a policy committee meeting. And that's all she wrote.
Okay, on the 12th and 19th, I had a phone conversation or meeting with President, with Erica. The next page. And on the 9th, we had another town meeting. And the real estate committee meeting was what day?
Sunday.
The real estate
Wednesday
committee.
last week.
Yeah. Thank you, that's all. Aaron?
On the 19th of December, I had a phone call with Greg, and today I had a phone call with Lucas. And that is.
I had a real, December 10th, December 11th, I had a COCC budget committee interview, which we approved tonight for the two candidates. And real estate committee on January 7th and audit and finance committee on the 13th.
President's report.
Well, I mean, I live here, so I'm here for all of that. That's good. Okay. Cindy stole my thunder, but that's a really good thing because the FIPSI grant is huge news. We're really excited. I'll mention a couple other names of people just to really publicly thank them for their work. Stephanie Rohde, who does a lot of work, especially once we get the grant behind the scenes, Jenna Flannery, and our incredible faculty, especially that Redmond group. They're amazing. That team is so fun to watch. I was there second day of class and they're like, oh, hey, what do you want? Okay, anyway, they're just jump right in with the students. It's so hands-on. They do incredible work. So super happy for them and that we were able to secure that. A couple other really cool updates actually this month. So I want to brag a little bit about our Deer Ridge Adult Basic Education program and the staff out there. All of our faculty and staff out there do a tremendous job, but at mid-year, the Deer Ridge ABE team is tied for first in the Oregon Correctional Institutions with 32 GED completers already. That matches Snake River, which serves 4 times as many students as COCC. Yeah. More remarkably, Deer Ridge leads the state in outcomes per student with 63% achieving level gains and 32% earning their GED, which is what they consistently do. But that's particularly incredible. So I think Tony Russell, one of our deans, probably said it best. He said, you know, in Gen Z terms, our Deer Ridge ABE staff and faculty slay. So I was like, I'm going to use that exact terminology at the board meeting. Well said. We've also been named a nationally recognized participating site by Firewise USA. This is great work. Shout out to Paula Simone and her leadership in this. So it's a designation that's achieved through a submission of a comprehensive application for wildlife remediation action plans. It also includes starting a student group. There's a faculty group. And to become recognized as a national participating site, the actual state fire marshal came out and toured our Bend campus, reviewed the plan. It's very robust and really exciting. We certainly live in an area that needs that. So thank you to Paula and the entire COCC community for really making some movement on that. The last update I have is just sort of an update. We talked a little bit, the last meeting I gave an update about HEC and one of their recommendations on potential strategic integration and mergers between institutions. HEC's they had a special board meeting on that on January 6th. I was able to attend. There was quite a bit of public comment, all from the universities, all raising some concerns. Despite that, the HEC board did vote to advance that report to the legislature, including that recommendation. Ben Cannon then came and joined Oregon President's Council where I was at, and we asked some very specific questions about what that could mean for community colleges. It was really good. He stated he did not believe that it would really be possible, nor that they're advocating for community colleges and universities to merge, which I think we all knew was probably not very realistic anyway. But he did say he recognized tax code and accreditation and all the things that went into that. He mentioned that the community colleges were included in that report, and as part of that integration, more from a shared services standpoint. So can we buy things in bulk or share certain services together is more of what they're looking for. And again, none of this was specific to COCC, 17 community colleges across the state. Some of those things might make good sense and they could make sense here too. So it's advancing, but it doesn't sound like we see an immediate impact that would hit us at COCC. And I've been in conversations with Cascades as well.
So that's universities and colleges. What about colleges to colleges? I mean, there's small colleges on the coast, so maybe there needs to be some kind of.
For the community colleges?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very much recognized that could happen. I will tell you, my counterparts at those coastal colleges are very concerned about that. That's something that they're worried about. But as a council, and even with Ben, I think we all acknowledge that community colleges to community colleges, if those conversations need to take place, especially in low enrollment areas, I think everybody recognizes that could make some sense. But there are strong feelings, as there are with anything. But certainly the merger between Willamette and Pacific, thank you, is a catalyst. So a lot of people are looking at that with interest.
So the big why is money.
Yeah, this came out of a
savings.
report, which
Yeah.
was the long-term sustainability of Oregon's universities.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the recommendations, was this integration, and they left it very broad. They said it could be as much as shared service, as little as shared services, as much as full-on mergers. And so, like I said, many of those public universities voiced concern and opposition, but it was voted to move forward. But there are enrollment challenges, especially at some of the regional colleges. I don't have it in front of me, though. It has been shared with me. It's pretty significant dips over the last 10 years in particular.
We have a lot of pride in every community, rather than community college, or little simple things like a fire district and an EMS, try to combine two of those.
Sure.
That was a long 5 years. And, you know, it's territorial as well as people at the top not wanting to lose their job. Neither one of them did, but it's those threats. And it's understandable, but the reality is it's money as well as good utilization of the monies that we get from taxpayers.
Yeah. Well, luckily, COCC is doing pretty good in our enrollments, and we have a good amount of elbow space out here in Central Oregon, so we should be in better shape than most.
I'd like to speak quickly to the firewoods. That's very, very important. In 2014, we watched the two bolts are rolling up, and the projection were it was going to roll up this end of bend. And what saved us was the timing of the fire starting their day, because it peaks, fires peak in the afternoon and the evening. And we had high humidity in the evenings, what stopped the fire, because we just didn't have the asset to stop it. And we have buildings on this campus that still have cedar shingles on them. We have, trees right up against them. And that's just a threat we can't ignore. We're just one fire away. And that is very, very important to keep together.
No, it's great. It's great. That's it from me. Thank you.
And the dates are reflected under dates for people, dates that are coming up. At this point, we're going to adjourn and move to executive session.
Jim. Big sessions.
I think you did.
I did. Got a pretty, this, is that better?
Okay. Right, that's right.
And do I go ahead and read now? Do I read before we go? Okay. COCC Board of Directors will now meet in executive session for the purpose of ORS 192.660, Section 2, subsection D, labor negotiations, and ORS 192.660, Section 2, subsection E, for the purpose of discussing real property transactions. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All the members of the audience will be asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. At the end of the executive sessions, we will return to an open session and welcome the audience back into the boardroom.
That won't be. We won't be returning though.
I don't think so.
Nothing else on the agenda,
No.
nothing to vote on.
So we don't have to come back, Paul?
Not if you don't have, I'm not gonna make any decisions.
No, we're not.
It's really nice if this we close out.
Everybody here?
Is anyone else hot?
Yes.
Lane, can we crack the door?
Yeah, oh my gosh, you read it all.
Thank you.
I thought it was me.
Me too.
Saying mine was like.